Welcome to my third Jewish and Israeli Interest podcast with two very special guests. Ewan Phillips, spokesperson for Labour Against Anti-Semitism. He fights it in the Labour Party by reporting and highlighting it. He's not Jewish and he's never been to Israel. So why does he do it? Now, if you're on Twitter, you may have seen Ewan Phillips tackling anti-Semitism on an hourly basis. By his own admission, as spokesman for Labour Against Anti-Semitism, he's put his career and reputation on the line. In July 2017, he was appointed chair of his local constituency party, something he was very proud of. But it was a role he lasted in just 9 months, as he felt he had no choice but to resign in April last year because of his growing concerns and dissatisfaction at growing anti-Semitism within the party. 2 years ago, Ewan and his colleagues, Jewish and non-Jewish, set up LAAS to begin tackling party anti-Semitism. I met Ewan in central London and started by asking him why he sticks to such an impossible task.
When I joined the Labour Party in 1996, one of the reasons I joined was that I wanted to fight racists. And I certainly didn't join the Labour Party to be led by a racist. And unfortunately, that's the situation that we find ourselves in at the moment. Jeremy Corbyn is an anti-Semitic racist. He's leading the party in a direction which is completely antithetical to my values and to my views. And I think that's appalling. I think he's a threat not only to our democracy but to left-wing politics in the UK, because I feel that he's betraying everything that Labour stands for and that Labour governments have achieved. Secondly, it just felt like the right thing to do. When I became more aware of this issue, and you know, I wasn't one of the people who was there at the beginning saying Jeremy Corbyn shouldn't be elected leader because of his record on anti-Semitism. No, it just wasn't an aspect of his political career I was aware of. But as I became aware of it, as I understood the concerns of Jewish friends within the party, many of whom I'd actually just met on social media, I just couldn't stand back and ignore it, and I couldn't join in with the rest of the party and say, well, you know, Jeremy's done better in the election in 2017, so let's get behind him. I can't do that. I'm not going to do that, and I, you know, I just can't do it. And so if you oppose something, then you have to stand by your convictions and you have to stand by your values, and that's what I've done. And fortunately, I've got, you know, there are a lot of people who feel the same way, and we've managed to come together and form Labour Against Anti-Semitism, and yeah, we hope that we're doing what it takes to really confront anti-Semitism in the Labour Party.
Now, in July 2017, you were appointed chair of your local constituency party, something as a lifelong Labour activist you were very proud of, I'm sure, but it was a role which lasted just 9 months as you felt you had no choice but to resign in April last year. This must have been a crushing blow. Did you think at that point, I don't think I can be a member of the Labour Party anymore?
Yes, I mean, I don't think there's been a point over the last 18 months where I haven't questioned my membership of the Labour Party. Like many people, I mean, Labour Against Anti-Semitism is a mixture of current and former Labour members. The reason I had to stand down as chair was because it was around the time of the Mir 1 mural, where, again, revelations about Jeremy Corbyn speaking, praising what was an obviously anti-Semitic mural in East London came to light, and basically the sort of two hats that I was wearing as a local Labour activist, but also as a national spokesperson against anti-Semitism, I could no longer keep those roles separate, and it was impossible for me to in all honesty, go out and campaign for a Jeremy Corbyn government. I'd written before that about some steps which I felt that Corbyn could have taken to address the issue. I felt that if he'd wanted to, he could have sort of said, yes, I held these views, I understand that they are wrong, and I'd like to understand more. And he could have led with an example of someone who develops an appreciation and awareness of the complexity of anti-Semitism, who understands how it manifests on the left. But he obviously didn't want to do that, and his response to the anti-Semitic mural was appalling. it clearly showed that he wasn't interested in dealing with his own personal anti-Semitism. Certainly wasn't interested in dealing with it in the party, and my role as chair of my CLP was just incompatible. Did I think about leaving the party? Yes, as I said, yes. I've thought about leaving the party many times. While people are still in the party who are fighting for the party, then I will stay in there with them. People like Luke Akehurst, who's a tireless fighter for moderate Labour values, for strong Labour values, and he's very much an inspiration for staying in the party. My head says that the Labour Party is so institutionally racist now that it's almost beyond any kind of sort of comeback. But my heart still says that there's maybe a way that it's salvageable. I'd rather they try and kick me out than me give up my membership willingly. And if they want to try and kick me out, they can do. They know where I am and they know where my address is, but they haven't done so far.
The Parliamentary Conservative Party is now behind Theresa May in a way that you'd probably say the Parliamentary Labour Party, just simply apart from the front bench, is not behind Jeremy Corbyn. So what would you say to the wider community of Labour MPs, the social democratic end of the party, so to speak, people like Ian Austin, John Manchuk, Amuna, Luciana Berger? Should they follow Frank Field out of the party and be an independent? After all, they are a part of an electoral college which could bring in a Jeremy Corbyn government.
I mean, I've heard Ian Austin speak on this issue a number of times, and I appreciate that he's in a really, really difficult position, and I respect that. And to be honest, I understand the realism of our two-party political system. That if Ian Austin was to become an independent MP, Labour, the Labour hierarchy would simply appoint a more pro-Corbyn candidate to fight the next election, and that pro-Corbyn candidate would most likely get in because of the strength of the Labour brand. I would rather Ian Austin was there as a Labour MP after the next election. If that's within a Labour government or not, that's fine by me. Same with Luciana Berger. Same with John Mann. These are people who are standing up and fighting for their principles and who aren't scared to say there is a problem in our party, there's a problem with our leader, and we want to see some change. What I do find pretty disgraceful is the silence of so many who opposed Jeremy Corbyn, voted against him in the vote of no confidence in 2016, and have fallen into line because he did slightly better than expected in 2017 in the general election then. This guy is still a racist. Jeremy Corbyn is a racist, Jeremy Corbyn is an anti-Semite. That hasn't changed because he got a slightly better than expected poll performance. You need to discover your Labour values, you need to discover your anti-racist values, and you need to actually do something. Whether that's making a bit more noise, whether that's going onto TV programmes and talking about this, maybe it's being more confrontational in PLP meetings or in direct private meetings with Corbyn and with McDonnell and with people who are supporting Jeremy Corbyn. But we keep getting told that people in Labour need to stay and fight. Well, I see lots of people staying. I don't see a lot of people fighting, and that's all I want to see. I really want to see Labour MPs fighting for the soul of the party, because it is being torn away from them, and they're just sitting there and letting it happen, and that is just appalling behaviour.
Hashtag Be Louder, which brings us on to the subject of Rachel Riley, one of the most high-profile co-fighters of left-wing anti-Semitism. She spoke in Parliament just this week with her characteristic courage and bravery. Now, since Labour adopted the IHRA definition, it seems among the fog of Brexit that Corbyn and Labour are getting away with it. Even Brexit, discussing anything else. But his history, his background in anti-Semitism is giving him a sheen of respectability.
Rachel Riley has done an absolutely fantastic job. She's been hugely courageous. What she's doing is that she's taking that message to people who wouldn't otherwise hear it. She's taking it to people who watch daytime TV who follow her on Twitter, who maybe don't read the political pages of newspapers. And that is really taking the message to places that Jeremy Corbyn and his sort of media outriders like Owen Jones and Aaron Bastani just can't reach. And I think Rachel and people like Tracy Ann Oberman and Francis Barber as well, they deserve a huge amount of credit for their bravery in standing up and saying so. There is a problem. There is a challenge with Brexit at the moment. That Brexit is really taking up all the sort of airtime on BBC News, in the media, and it's really crowding out a lot of the concerns that we have, a lot of the mounting evidence that we have. That despite Labour adopting the IHRA, after quite a lot of resistance, which was again extremely problematic in itself, they're not actually implementing it. Labour Against Anti-Semitism has submitted report after report since last August, and we're getting people who are saying, the Israelis are murdering Palestinians to harvest their organs. Some of the very worst sort of 1930s era Rothschilds conspiracy theories you could possibly not hope to see. These people are getting referred to training. They're getting let off with warnings about their conduct. They shouldn't be in a Labour Party. They should be kicked out. They should be slung out on their ear and told not to come back. But people within the Labour Party hierarchy are saying, you know what, you say that the world's being run by a Rothschild conspiracy. We're going to shrug our shoulders at that. We're not going to take the right measures. And that's just really the Labour leadership saying that they're pretty cool with it. And I think that's really bad.
It's this thing about being against anti-Semitism and all forms of racism, which in a way excuses Chris Williamson from signing the Holocaust Memorial Book, and for someone like Owen Jones to troll, I think it's fair to say, Twitter followers by celebrating Hanukkah. These aren't members of any community I want to be part of.
No, absolutely, and I think what we've seen over the last sort of 6 to 12 months is a lot of people could have been forgiven for being ignorant of the complexities of this issue, of not understanding how criticism of the Israeli government, frequently moves over the line towards being outright anti-Semitic abuse of Jews and Judaism. But I don't think people really have that excuse anymore, and it's all very well and good for people like Owen Jones to say that they're declaring an all-out war on anti-Semitism, as Owen has. But how strongly is he really following up with that? Because he's not condemning Chris Williamson. He's not having a go at Jeremy Corbyn for his failures. He certainly hasn't condemned Jenny Formby for her failures to, for example, expel Jackie Walker, who's been suspended by the party for over 2 years now, despite there being an assurance that all cases would be cleared up last summer. So what we're seeing is the left wing sort of alt-left media, people like Owen Jones, people like Aaron Bastani, who are saying out of one mouth, yes, we oppose anti-Semitism, but on the other hand, they're facilitating the anti-Semitism in the party, which they claim to be fighting. It's double standard. I'd actually call it hypocrisy, to be honest.
Let's pay tribute now to David Collier, whose blog is a statistical masterpiece, each and every article. And of course, rapier sharp as he is on Twitter. Now, in his usual characteristic statistical thoroughness, he measured the amount of times Israel, Jewish and Palestine had appeared in Hansard, the official record of parliamentary discourse. He concludes that Corbyn is a mere symptom of anti-Semitism, and there's a growing British obsession on this in Israel. In fact, in the 31 years since Hamas was founded, that word Hamas has received 2,500 mentions, which is more than Bangor and Port Talbot have put together in 70 years. And I'm thinking to myself, no wonder the South Wales boys and girls voted to leave.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I wasn't aware of anti-Semitism in the UK. I didn't really understand how it worked, and it's been quite a learning curve for me since 2015 and 2016. I think that just really shows how embedded institutional anti-Semitism is, not just in the Labour Party, but across society, on left and right. And I think that is reflected in the focus that is given to Israel in our parliamentary proceedings. Anti-Semitism has existed on the left long before Jeremy Corbyn. If you have a read of Dave Rich's book, you'll see that left-wing anti-Semitism has been a problem, since the Second World War and even going back to Karl Marx. I think there is more specifically a link that goes back to a academic conference in 2001 in Durban, which was a sort of international NGO conference where it was declared that Zionism was the number one racism across the globe, and that seems to have really sort of embedded itself in left-wing academia and has then filtered through to left-wing politics.
When I see union conventions, party conferences and Celtic fans waving Palestinian flags in their hundreds or thousands, to me, as a Jewish person looking on, it looks like not support for Palestine. It looks like anti-Semitism. It looks like something from Bavaria.
I find the trade union position very difficult. Again, they claim to be anti-racist. They claim to be to show solidarity with workers across the world and with marginalised peoples, but they don't show solidarity with the Jewish people, and they're not showing solidarity with trade union and labour groups in Israel. Many of them are affiliated to the Palestine Solidarity Campaign. You mentioned David Collier earlier. David Collier has done a huge amount of research into the Palestine Solidarity Campaign. To describe it as problematic is really just sort of me pulling my punches. It's deeply anti-Semitic. Many of its members think nothing of promoting anti-Semitic conspiracies. Its secretary, Ben Sofa, has defended Ken Livingstone for making anti-Semitic comments. And he actually works in Corbyn's office and is married to Cat Smith, the Corbynite MP. We see this sort of blind affiliation to deeply racist organisations across the left, and it's just lazy thinking, which is doing nothing to confront anti-Semitism in the Labour movement. It's just appalling, and I think that there are people in the trade union movement who need to have a really good think about where their relative moral values are, because at the moment they're lying in the dustbin.
Where do you think Britain is heading? Is there a socialist shake-up about to happen with all the associated problems that you've just highlighted? Or is something else stirring, with Brexit being a rather typical Middle English revolt?
I've spoken with a couple of academics about this, because there's obviously been a lot of political discussion at the moment and academic discussion about populism, and there's obviously been a lot of focus on right-wing populism with the election of Trump and the victory of the Brexit campaign. And I do see there being and Viktor Orban in Austria as well, and I do see there obviously being a huge challenge from the populist right. I think post-Brexit there will be a betrayal narrative from the right that the elites have betrayed the will of the people on Brexit, and that will be stoked massively, and we know the outcomes of populism and where that can lead to. So that's very concerning. Equally concerning is the way that Jeremy Corbyn's team have purposefully adopted many of the tropes of the Trump campaign, including the idea of the rigged system. This is something that's been written about quite extensively. And again, they're stoking the idea that the people are being betrayed by the 1% of global capitalists, and that if only they were removed, then the people would be free to enjoy a sort of utopia that is currently being denied to them. And again, we know where scapegoating leads. We know where a possible conclusion is for that kind of thinking. And when you tag that onto a party which is already institutionally anti-Semitic, again, I find that very concerning. So I think you've got two political parties which are heading in very alarming populist directions. The third option, which I'm hoping will come about, is that there's some kind of reassertion of the centre. The population of the UK rejects both the right wing and the left wing politics, and there's a reassertion of the type of politics which has dominated the UK since the Second World War, and which has provided 60, 70 years of progressive prosperity, increasing social liberalism, better health, better education. Yes, there are areas of the country where there's huge amounts of poverty, but let's not lose sight of the fact that as a society we've improved over the years. We are a society which is inherently getting better. Yeah. Let's not forget that. Let's keep on with the values that have got us there, and with the politics that has got us there, which is based around consensus and with reason and rationale, with not overspending, not underspending, but sound investment. And that's where we should be going, not diving to the left or diving to the right.
From one centrist dad to another, Ewan Phillips, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And now, Grandma, Olga Pisana.